Bismillah, addressing female disrespect. Why this is essential to relationship success. I'm going to get into this video again from Psych Hacks. The good doctor had put this out about a year ago, and I think it's very important if we're having a conversation about marriages and about relationships in general, why we should cover female disrespect. Now, before we get started, brothers and sisters, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. As always, share the content if you are able to, inshallah. Now, why this is such an important topic is the differences in the way men and women communicate and the value that men place on respect versus the value that women place on respect, and what respect means to men versus what respect means to women. So, without further ado, brothers and sisters, let's get right into this and see where the good doctor takes us.
I'm Dr. Orion Teraband, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is addressing female disrespect. This is an extremely important topic, both for men and women. So I hope everyone will be listening carefully to today's talk. Let's jump right in. The first thing that's important to understand is that disrespect is typically a process. It happens gradually over time. The best predictor of overt disrespect is covert disrespect, which are small behaviors that have plausible deniability. So if you don't want to have a larger problem on your hands further down the road, it's important to address disrespect while it is still in its smaller forms. Yes. The clearest examples of the process of disrespect are seen in high schools and prisons. A bully doesn't usually go straight to shaking down his target. That's actually pretty risky. If he doesn't know who he's dealing with, he could always pick the wrong guy to mess with, and that's going to make his life more difficult and complicated than he intended. So what these folks tend to do is they kind of test their victim. A classic example is bumping into their target as they're crossing paths in a hallway and seeing how he responds. Yeah. This is a subtle test because there's some plausible deniability here, like, oh, well, maybe this person just wasn't looking where he was going. It happens. Sometimes people jostle into each other. However, if the bully bumps into the target and the target says, "Excuse me," that person is now pegged as a target for escalation. On the other hand, if the target were to respond appropriately and cast a warning glance at the bully or issue a verbal warning, that bully could always play it off. Whoa, hey man, chill out. What got you so worked up? Yeah. But he would probably think twice about escalating the situation. Now, the issue is that most bullies kind of know that they're bullies. And while women absolutely can be bullies, that is, they are intentionally using tactics to inflict emotional or psychological pain in order to get what they want, I also believe that a lot of women actually aren't aware of how they may be communicating disrespect to men.
That's fair.
And this is because, at least in part, respect means different things to men and women.
That's
now,
big.
Before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please
So what he's saying right there, that respect means different things to men than it does to women, is super important, okay? If you go into the 5 love languages and the different variations of love languages that exist, what you'll see that most men that I know anyway, personally, their number one love language would be words of affirmation. Even if they're not good at giving the words of affirmation, their love language of receiving what they receive from you as a woman is words of affirmation. The more positive words that you build him up with, the better results that you will have. Therefore, the better your relationship will be. Likewise, if you, in an argument or after an argument, decide to withdraw those words of affirmation, the result of that would be far more devastating to your man than would be suddenly taking away some of the acts of love that you do for him, such as folding the laundry or, the typical things that a lot of women will do in order to show their love. Of course I love you. That's why I make sure that you have lunch every day before you go to work, or that's why I make sure that you have clean clothes and things of that nature. I don't do that because I want to do it. I do it because I love you and I want to make sure that you have the things you need. All right. So as a woman, if you withdraw those types of things from your man because you're mad or you've had an argument or whatever, of course it's going to have a negative impact. But nothing will hit him as hard as withdrawing words of affirmation or starting to give him negative words, right? When you hit a man with negative words, aka disrespect, it has an entirely different effect on him than it does on you, because most women have a different love language. Now, granted, there are some hopeless romantics out there who are women who, their number one love language would be words of affirmation, both giving and receiving, okay? However, in the vast majority of cases, that's not the way it is. Yes, they do love them, okay, but that's not their primary love language. So, as disrespect increases, then you tend to have more problems from a man's perspective. Let's keep going.
Consider sending this video to someone who might benefit from its message. It's word-of-mouth referrals like that really help to grow this channel. And if you're thinking about going to grad school, then you need to check out my top-rated GRE self-study course at stellargre.com. You can use the coupon code PSYCH for 10% off all membership plans. Now, at this point, I'm going to offer the women in the audience a really simple test to determine whether a behavior is likely going to be perceived as disrespectful to a man. Here it is. With respect to any behavior, just ask yourself, would I say the same thing in the same way to my boss if I was interested in keeping my job? If the answer to that question is no, congratulations. You potentially have a disrespectful behavior on your hands.
That's if you're being honest. Whenever you give yourself this self-test, you have to be honest. Okay?
You're interested in keeping your job, would you roll your eyes at your boss? Would you be dismissive of your boss's feedback? Would you complain angrily? Would you respond to your boss's requests sarcastically? Would you nag your boss to comply with your demands? Would you mutter under your breath when your boss talks at meetings? Would you talk badly about your boss with your coworkers behind his back? Would you tease your boss? Would you be openly indifferent or uninterested in your boss's proposals? Would you mock your boss's attempts to maintain order and discipline?
That's fair.
I think most of us understand that if we're interested in keeping our jobs, the answer to all of those questions is no. And for the 3% of you out there listening to this who are now saying to yourselves, well, Ryan, actually, I tease my boss all the time. We have a really warm and playful relationship. Okay, then the question for you becomes, would you act like that with your boss in front of other clients or customers?
Correct.
Of course not. And why is that? Because you know how that behavior would come off to other people who are not initiated into your special little dynamic. And this means that you understand my point. Now,
what he's referring to there is if you and your boss have that type of playful banter and carry on, then would you speak that way to your boss in front of their boss or their boss, right? Or the CEO of the company, etc., etc. So that's the point that he's making there. So you got to be honest in these assessments here.
Now, before I address why this behavior is detrimental to women's best interests, let me respond to the most common objection I usually receive at this point of my argument. In short, the objection is some variant of, that's nice, but a man is not the boss of me. Okay, fair enough. However, your boss is not the boss of you either. You're not his slave. He can't make you do things that you don't want to do. You are a participant in an at-will professional relationship. He's not the boss of you. However, he is the boss of you in a professional context, or even better, he's the boss of the employees, which is a role that you voluntarily agreed to assume. And within that dynamic, the boss has legitimate authority to make reasonable demands of and set reasonable expectations for his employees. The person who builds the frame, or to use my sexual marketplace metaphor, builds the ship, is the boss or captain. This is not always the man, but it generally is. Why? Because it's usually men making bids to women to enter into their lifestyles, not the other way around.
Right.
However, even if you disagree with that perspective, a valid retort to the objection I previously stated would be, why do you feel that your boss is entitled to a higher level of respect than I am? Go shack up with that guy, or see how he puts up with your bullshit on his time off. Ladies, if you disrespect your man in ways that you wouldn't disrespect your boss, you are functionally communicating that your professional relationship with your boss is more valuable to you than your intimate relationship with your man. And maybe for you it is. And the communication is appropriate. No problem. However, if it isn't, you should be aware that you may be communicating this message inadvertently.
Yeah.
All right, so
and the same can be said for any type of dynamic outside of your marriage or relationship, right? So, for example, I know that a lot of women will talk to their man like he's absolute trash, right? Like he is a idiot, like he's just stupid, right? But then they will talk to the mailman or the guy at the store or the lady at the post office. They will speak to everybody else with politeness, with kindness, with softness. Okay, the majority of the time when men step outside of a marriage, okay, well, number one, it's they're lacking physical intimacy, but the close runner up, and I would say it may even be tied to or equal to lacking physical intimacy, would be that another woman makes them feel desired. And the way they make them feel desired is they make them feel respected. They make them feel important. That's the main reason that a man will step outside of a marriage, because another woman has shown him her softer side and offered that up to him, and in return it has made him feel valued and respected. And that's the main thing that a man, when he comes home from doing battle in the world all day long with his boss, with co-workers, with whatever projects he had to get through that day, whatever deadlines he had to deal with, he may have to pour concrete that day, and he's been dealing with the elements on top of customers and on top of his boss, on top of employees working for him, whatever, right? And this goes across the board in whatever type of career field he's in. So the last thing he wants to do is come home after dealing with that and deal with sarcasm or a harsh attitude. You've been harsh with him all day, off and on, through text messaging. And that's another big thing, text messaging and sarcasm. While it's cute and funny at certain times, you have to really be careful about how you communicate through text message. And I'll cover that, inshallah. I'll cover that, soon in a different video altogether, because communication and the ways in which we communicate are extremely important, and they can dictate the success or failure of your marriage or your relationship, be it in love or professional or whatever. So, back to it.
Why is disrespecting men bad for women? We can approach the answer in two ways. In the first place, a man who has any self-worth whatsoever and who enjoys any kind of optionality in the sexual marketplace will not tolerate disrespect. So the
optionality means, like he said, optionality in the sexual marketplace. What he is referring to there is any type of man who knows his value, any type of man who knows that he has other options available to him. And whether you women look at your man and see that shining star of a stud or not, does not mean that other women don't see him that way, right? There's an old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And the same thing applies to the female perspective, right? one female's trash is another female's treasure. So just because you're not seeing him that way, and as a result of that, you are approaching him with disrespect, with sarcasm, with harsh tones, and things like that, does not mean that other women would approach him the same way. Okay? And if this is a communication error on your part, or you have a lack of emotional maturity, then that's something that you have to address within yourself. And a disclaimer here is, before all you sisters start chiming in saying, yeah, but, okay? Yeah, but's what gets you into this type of situation. Quit the yeah, but thinking and start to take accountability for the things that you say and the way that you say them. Another person does not have control over how you respond or react to them, okay? And there's a difference, by the way, in responding and reacting. Excuse me. With the latter usually having a negative connotation. When you react to something, you're usually doing so out of emotional context, right? When you respond to something, it's usually within a logical mind frame. Let's keep going.
Woman being overtly or covertly disrespectful, she may be jeopardizing what could otherwise be a fulfilling and rewarding relationship for her. It's kind of the obvious reason. But here's the second reason, and it's a little spicier. Disrespecting men not only threatens the women's relationships, it also threatens their positive emotionality. This is because it is not possible for a woman to love a man she does not respect. It is possible for a man to love a woman he does not respect. That happens every day. However, it is not possible for a woman to love a man she does not respect. One of the many differences between men and women. For a woman, where the respect goes, the love follows.
Yes.
So disrespect not only threatens the relationship, it threatens the love in her heart. It threatens the woman's own positive regard.
And to touch base on this really quickly as well, a good example of this would be, ladies, when your man is out in the world and he's on the grind and he's being successful and he is motivated, self-motivated, and you see him hustling, trying to build and build and build, your attraction level for him is at its peak, right? That's when he's most attractive to you, is whenever he's out there doing what he does to make things happen for you, for your family, right? Now, on the flip side of that, when he is the least attractive to you and when you lose respect for him is when he is not self-motivated and he is full of self-pity and has no motivation, you know? So that's a very important example. And what he's talking about here, about how it affects your love, is a real thing. And he had a very accurate statement there. It does happen all the time that men love women that they don't respect. However, the opposite is not true, ever. A woman cannot love a man that she does not respect. So if you do not respect him, or if you speak disrespectfully to him, this will affect your love for him. And you may not even realize that you're doing it. You may not even realize that it's happening. It is happening in a very subtle way. And if you think that the negative energies of the world and the Shaitanic whispers are not playing a part in that, you're absolutely wrong. And what I see the most common is a lot of women, a lot of sisters are very, very sensitive to things when a man is very logically minded usually and very straight to the point. A man can communicate with another man and have no problem with the things that are said, whereas if a man said the same thing to a female, she would come unhinged and react emotionally. So, keep that in mind.
Men, nipping covert disrespect in the bud is absolutely essential to the long-term health of your relationship. Addressing it is a way to safeguard her positive regard for you. If the disrespect is allowed to continue without consequence, not only will the behavior likely become increasingly problematic, but the high interest and attraction you may currently enjoy, which are the conditions of her continued loyalty, will be jeopardized, compromising the sustainability of the relationship. Understand? This is a long video, but it's an important subject. What do you think? What is your experience with covert disrespect? let me know in the comments below. And
all right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. That is a very great watch. Thank you guys for sticking through it. For those of you who actually made it all the way through, alhamdulillah, inshallah, it was beneficial for you. You can let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Is this a W or a L? A lot of you brothers out there are facing this female disrespect, and you probably are feeling helpless and hopeless with it. You don't know what to do exactly. In a lot of cases, the truth of the matter is, brothers, this stuff does not get better. It does not resolve itself. It takes an act of accountability, okay, on the part of women in order to remedy this situation, which is these days, as we know, the good doctor's next video there was called Why Women Don't Apologize, and I'll cover that soon as well, inshallah. But he's got very valid points on that as well. When you think about it, the majority of you men out there, you will give an apology to your woman just to make things better, even if you know that you're absolutely right. And a lot of you women out there, if you're being honest with yourself, will gaslight the hell out of your man and make him think that he is the problem, even though that you are the one completely responsible for the disrespect, because most likely something's been said that you have overreacted to, and as a result of that, now there's an argument because you wanted to say something disrespectful because of your own perception, when your husband or your man is usually trying to just communicate something in a very matter-of-fact or roundabout way, or very, very matter-of-fact and not a roundabout way, and you took it as an offensive attack towards you, and you immediately became defensive, and as a result of that started running your mouth. And that's something that you women have to take accountability for, and accountability is kryptonite to most women today. That's not to say to all women. For those of you women, before you chime in and start on and on about how I'm not like that, yada, 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 alhamdulillah, not all women are like that, and that's true. But we're talking about the vast majority of the time here, and the cases here were generalizations. I can't touch on specific individual cases. We have to cover generalizations when we're talking about this type of stuff. So anyways, brothers and sisters, let me know what you think in the comments below. I really enjoy this channel, and I will link this in the description as always. If you guys have questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions, you can hit me up on my email. That's trinitytruth07@gmail.com. trinitytruth07@gmail.com. Until next time, brothers and sisters, remember that there is one God and only one God, and He alone is worthy of worship.